as always, that was our fantastic theme song done by our great friend of the show, Colin Cowell, with Colin's Coffee. I am Steve Shoney. I'm the city manager of the city of Upper Arlington. I'm here with my co-host and sidekick.
I'm Darren Shulman. I'm the city attorney, and I embrace the sidekick.
I know you do. You have really made that part of your being.
My dad's like, "Why are you the sidekick?" I'm like, "I don't know, Dad. That's just what I do."
Because you haven't booked a guest yet, and we're on guest number 24. So when you book, so you've got 24 more guests before you stop being just a sidekick. So we are very excited today. I'm particularly excited to have one of. All of our 36,000 residents are my favorites, but there's some that who are more favorite than others. And today we do have one of my true favorites. Margie Pizzuti is with us, longtime resident. Let's see if I can list off a few of the things. So former past president of the Upper Arlington Community Foundation, former co-chair of the Community Center feasibility task force, former school board member, like
12 years
on school board, former CEO of Goodwill Columbus, and former head of development for Nationwide Children's. Am I getting that right?
Broader than that, but that's enough. That's okay.
Did a lot of stuff at Nationwide Children's, and just fantastic, true leader in the community. Welcome, Margie.
Thank you so much. I'm humbled.
I'm kind of impressed that you kind of did that off the top of your head. Like, you have notes, but they're not really.
No, I didn't have anything.
Yeah, that was off the top of your head.
That was former winner of, or not. I don't know if you say former winner, the most immediate, actually 2022 winner of the Heart of UA Award.
Yes,
the reigning champion of the Heart of UA Award.
And it actually wasn't the Heart of UA. Just to clarify, it was the Leadership UA.
That's right.
So you get
Sue Ralph was the recipient.
Sue was the, yeah.
And the reason why you know so much about my background is that you introduced me when I received that award from Leadership UA.
And we're going to come back to one of the things I said about you in that later. But you've listened to the podcast, right?
I have, a couple.
So you know how we start. We start with our start, bench, cut series of questions. So we're going to give you three things.
And we try to make you uncomfortable, just so you know. I mean, that's the thing.
Well, and you can go with the sports thing and the song thing.
No, we're not
we
going
went
crazy.
Oh, no, I just prepared
That's
for
why we do this.
No,
we went crazy this time.
We ask everybody who comes on the pod, we say, tell us kind of what's your sports thing, what's your music thing, and what's your geekiest, guiltiest pleasure.
Yeah.
And for Margie, the music thing was folk music.
Yes.
And so we went,
we had a problem too, because we don't listen to folk music. So we had to
Well, that's
a problem
on you.
for us.
Yes,
That's on us.
that is definitely
in an interest of, like,
so disappointed.
Communicating with our guest, we kind of tried to get into it.
We tried to find some classic folk songs that also have been covered by some interesting people. And so your task today is, these are folk songs that which one would you want to listen to all the time? Which one would you be able to listen to like once a month, and which one would you never be able to listen to together ever again? And you have to also think about this as though it was the covered version. So I'm going to give you someone who covered this song as well. I know this is really complicated.
Gosh, you made me have to answer.
We're going to make you have to think. So here we go. Eve of Destruction by Barry McGuire, which was covered by Public Enemy.
Okay.
That's kind of surprising.
Like a Rolling Stone, obviously Bob Dylan. You have several versions of this for covers. Seal did it. Jimi Hendrix, I think, fairly famously did it. The Rolling Stones did it, and Cher covered that one.
Okay. Well,
I feel like you must be limited to the Cher version.
I think you're limited to Cher version.
It seems like that's the one we got to go with.
And then Mr. Tambourine Man, which
Hey, Mr. Tambourine Man, play a song for me.
Exactly.
Okay.
The problem is that's not the version you get.
So the options. So Dylan wrote it. I think the history on that one is Dylan wrote it. The Byrds did it before he recorded it, and then he recorded it. But the version that you would be blessed to listen to forever would be the William Shatner version.
Wow.
And just a little bit of a
wow.
I actually own that version on CD if you need it. If you want to live up to your cut start bench here.
So you've got Eve of Destruction, which if you wanted the cover version, that would be Public Enemy, doing it in the early '90s angry rap style. You would have Like a Rolling Stone by Cher, or Mr. Tambourine Man with the William Shatner dramatic reading almost style of Mr. Tambourine Man.
So are you going to ask me to sing one of those?
No,
Just
or
pick
you have
which
to
ones you
rank
like. You
them.
got to rank them.
Oh my God! Who even remembers which ones you said? So
Eve of Destruction, Like a Rolling Stone, Mr. Tambourine Man.
Okay, like a Rolling Stone, it would be one.
Okay.
Number 2 would be Mr. Tambourine Man, and number 3 would be
Eve of Destruction.
Eve of Destruction. That to me doesn't even remotely cover the depth and breadth of folk singers and folk music.
No, I know.
I mean, we fully admit that we know nothing about.
We know nothing about folk, and we went with the things that have. So I went with the kind of covered thing. So I know there's
Correct.
a lot of much.
What would be the quintessential folk song
Well-
or singer?
Peter, Paul, and Mary.
Okay.
Which I sang these lullabies to my children when they were growing up. That's how passionate I am about folk music. And it was that time, the 60s and the 70s. So Puff the Magic Dragon, 500 Miles, Blowing in the Wind, If I Had a Hammer, Where Have All the Flowers Gone? These are
Classics.
classic songs from Peter, Paul, and Mary. And I actually met them because they did a concert in Columbus way back when Dick Celeste was governor, and he invited them to his home after the concert with a group of folks, and I got to meet
they
them.
Went there. They're like, cool. Let's go hang with the governor.
Yeah, hey, why not? So
That must be a folk music star thing. 'Cause I can't imagine like Kiss being like, let's go hang out with
because
the
we were
governor.
all shades of the
Well,
60s,
and the
and
Celestes were pretty.
They're pretty cool.
Yeah, they were pretty cool. I forgot you were Celestial.
yeah, that's okay.
Did you just say Celestial?
Yes, and we had a 40th year reunion last summer.
Really?
Of all the Celestials. Yes, it was quite something. So
So there's a number of you all. There's a few of them, a few Celestials that are UA residents. Am I remembering that?
yes,
So like,
Can I have an official definition of celestials?
folks who worked for Celeste and were really passionate about his time in office and what he represented, about the value of public service.
But you had to have worked with him. You can't just. You're not.
Yes.
It's not just fans.
yeah, no, it's
Right.
folks who.
Yeah, worked through the years. I'm trying to remember some folks, and I'm drawing a blank, but there are UA residents.
We'll come back to that.
Okay. Can I mention one more folk
Yeah,
music,
I
and then
wanna
you
learn.
can move on? Because
We don't have to move on.
I'm.
We can go into the.
We can
well,
Move on,
as you
Don.
want.
No, we can go deep on it.
No, that's okay.
No, I'm serious.
Well, some of the other ones, John Denver. Okay, quintessential.
Yeah.
Sunshine on your sunshine on my shoulders makes me happy.
Is he on a jet plane?
Even on a jet plane.
Hey, I know a song.
No, leaving on a jet plane was not him.
It wasn't him?
No.
Did he
It
didn't
could
sing that?
no.
But I don't know anything.
He sang Rocky Mountain High.
Yeah.
You'll remember. Thank God I'm a Country Boy.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
What about the West Virginia song? Is that him?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
So which of those songs do you think is the one that kind of would be the most relevant if somebody wanted to go and kind of revive a song and cover it and do that kind of stuff together?
From the ones I mentioned,
Or-
Peter, Paul, and Mary,
yeah.
or John Denver,
Sure.
or James Taylor. I mean, there's. Let me think. I think "Lady, My Sweet Lady." I don't know if you know that
Give me
one
that-
from
give me
John.
the tune for that.
Lady, my sweet
yeah,
lady,
Yeah.
Okay, that's
So do
one.
you like it when people cover the songs, or are you like, man, that's not John Denver. I can't listen to that.
Right. That's why I cringed when you mentioned the cover.
Well, and
folks.
it was William Shatner. There's double layers of cringe.
William,
on that.
yeah, and I mean the one that Bob Dylan did was was okay. But that's why I am really a purist when it comes to folk music and those individuals who sang them. And were
Last
the
question
originals.
about folk music
Okay,
for me.
sorry.
When we keep going, I'm interested. You've listed a lot of like classic folk music. Are there current people who are making folk music you like, or it's not really the same?
That's a great question. It's not really the same. I'm trying to think of some folks that are doing folk music revisited now, and I'm not quite sure.
So it's really kind of an era as well as
Right.
a genre. Okay.
And I don't know whether James Taylor is doing some newer music.
He's still around, but
He's
I think
still
singing
around,
his
but I think
stuff.
I've been to his concerts, and I believe he's singing some of his more.
So this is a
favorite
prep.
songs.
This is a prep for we keep trying to get. So there's a band that's actually kind of the whole singer-songwriter kind of next generation of folk. I almost said funk when they're not very much not funk, very much folk. Camp, which is a group. I think 2 or 3 of the members are UA kids. Who we're trying to kind of get them on the show next time they're around town. We'll kind of keep this and revisit this list with them. I think this would be a good kind of thing to go with them because they are making this kind of music. So if
There you go.
Spotify or whatever you use, look, CAAMP.
Oh,
I think you'd actually kind of like it and groove on it.
good. I'm
Give it
glad
some
I
things.
inspired you to perhaps think
There
about
we go. This is about the kind of exchange and learning that we look for that goes at a higher level. But there is something that
I
you
just love how Spotify's scoring of like songs is going to shoot through the roof based on all our listeners trying all these songs.
There
It
you
is.
go.
The camp will owe us for the 3 people that might pull up a camp.
As will William
CAA.
Shatner. He's like, why is my Tambourine Man song
Oh,
getting me so many
Tambourine.
royalties this week?
Shatner's gonna. Maybe we'll get him on the pod.
I would accept him on the pod, even though he has no UA connection.
So we've been very highbrow talking about, well, for us, highbrow talking about folk music, but there was something a little lower brow. I don't know. I don't want to be judgy.
lesser brow.
More popular.
more
Of the people.
less thought provoking than folk music. In your profile, which is that your guilty pleasure is Hallmark
Yes,
Channel
rom-coms.
Rom-coms.
You know what that means? Romantic
comedies,
right?
yes,
Just
yeah.
thought I'd for your listeners,
Yes.
just in case.
So we have
We have a game.
a game for you.
This is a new
This
game.
is a new game, and we're actually going to make Brian play this game too.
Brian has no idea what we're doing. We've gone off script.
We are completely off
Why
the
did you
script.
go off script with me?
Because I knew it would make you absolutely crazy.
Thank you.
So we have 5 movie descriptions for you
Okay.
and titles. 3 of them are actual Hallmark Channel movies. One is one that Darren wrote, and one
Wow.
Was written by artificial intelligence, AI.
like just one of these random
Oh, you
You typed
generated.
it in there
Yes.
and said, write us a script,
Yes,
and it did
and
it
you
for us.
could because these scripts are totally
And we want to see how good you are at figuring out
Okay.
the 3 real, 1 AI, and 1 Darren fake.
okay.
All right. Do you want to read?
We're going to rotate.
Do you want
so
to read first, or do you want me to?
I'll read first.
Okay,
Oh, no.
don't-
How do we want to do the game? Does she have to tell us each time, or does she get all 5?
She has to tell
Each
us
time.
each one.
Please
as
don't
we
make
go.
me remember because it'll test my memory here.
Yeah,
that's
okay.
fair.
And they'll
Okay.
run together.
All right,
That's
so
all.
I will start. This one is called Walking Away with My Heart. Abby's dog walker, Eddie, sets her up on the perfect blind date with Jean. There's just one problem. Jean is moving to Germany in a week. She and Eddie come up with a plan to convince Jean to cancel the move, but she soon finds herself wondering where the real connection might be.
That's a fake.
Hallmark.
That's
Fake.
no AI.
So is it AI or Darren?
Oh.
Yeah, there's multiple layers of this
Oh.
challenge here.
Wow. So it's. I'll say it's Darren.
It is.
And you're correct.
Oh, well done.
You are not nearly as good as you thought you were.
The AI. Yeah.
Yeah, well, I think she'll predict the AI too if she can predict me. But, all right, Steve.
The Dog Lover's Guide to Dating. Simon believes Chloe is the girl of his dreams, but can't seem to win over her beloved pup. He enlists dog trainer Alex, and
It's
soon,
Hallmark.
Wow. Finish it.
I just saw it last week.
You saw the dating. That's amazing. Oh,
You thought I was kidding you, huh?
you are a real fan.
This is so embarrassing for people listening. They're going to go, wow.
We haven't even been able to give Brian a chance. We were going to ask Brian to weigh in
Brian
on
doesn't
these.
need to. She's an expert. I just have to ask a question. Did you not know mine because it wasn't written well, or because you have seen literally every movie and that you hadn't seen that one?
I have seen literally most of the movies.
So-
People are going to think I'm just some sort of slug,
I tried to look at the schedule and figure out which ones hadn't aired yet, and I must have missed it with that one. Because I was worried about that kind of, I can't call it cheating, it's just failure on my
Genius
part.
knowledge.
It's okay.
Yeah.
I mean, similarly, Steve, I guess if you asked me like Marvel Comics movies, I would probably be able to figure it out. So we're hitting our
We
wheelhouse
actually should
here.
try that sometime.
All
So
right.
let's hear, is this the third one and final one?
So
There's 5.
Oh, there's
we've got
5. Okay.
And we're not going to tell you how many Darren wrote.
Okay.
There is only one AI one. So
Okay.
go ahead and read the one you want next.
A Dash of Love. Have you seen it already or not seen it already?
Just read it.
Okay, when an aspiring chef lands an assistant job at her idol's restaurant, she's convinced her big break is just around the corner. After a rocky start, she befriends the handsome executive chef and they begin bonding in the kitchen. But her joy is short-lived when she discovers her idol stealing her recipes and fires them both to protect her secret. Together, they set out to create their own pop-up restaurant and discover the most important ingredient is love.
Yes, and that is Hallmark.
Have you seen this one?
I have.
Oh my
And
Can't stump the master.
And she ended up, I think she went to Hawaii to start a new sort of life and career as a chef. So anyway, but yes, that's one. Go ahead.
Okay, so before we
I'm on a
continue,
roll.
Now I'm digging into this. Are these guilty pleasures, or do you like get into the science of this? Because there's definitely a formula.
Yes, there's definitely a formula, and it's just a guilty pleasure. It's just sitting down and watching the totally recognizable theme and story unfolding. It's totally predictable,
Do
but
they ever like swerve and have it be like a sad ending? Like
Never.
They hate each other at the end.
never, because people wouldn't watch
They
it.
wouldn't watch it.
Yeah,
All right.
it's enough of that around the world.
We're going to try 2 more.
Okay.
2 unlikely strangers, Sandy and Mark, are thrown together by fate. Despite their differences, the two quickly become close friends, learning from each other and helping each other grow. As their connection grows stronger, they must confront their own doubts and fears and learn to trust in each other and in the power of love. In the end, Sandy and Mark find their happily ever after, proving that love can be found in the most unexpected places.
And what was the name of that one?
Oh, sorry, Love and Laughter.
That's AI.
Yep.
It is AI. It was pretty good though for AI. They
Not bad, but not specific enough.
right.
It just was too. It was the
It was the-
generic.
yeah,
yes.
that
AI
was
knew
the
enough
formula.
to kind of get us there, but it couldn't come up with more
Right.
detail. So.
All right. And
Want one more?
Yeah,
I mean, she's gonna have seen it.
we got the, yeah.
Let's see.
A
Well, you just
Splash
gave it
of
away.
Love.
Okay.
A PhD student expands her studies to include the whales of the Pacific Northwest, where she meets a whale watching tour guide, and they soon find themselves bonding over more than just orcas.
It's all Hallmark. That's a great one.
That's a great
lot
one.
just because sometimes the scenery
Yeah.
and the visuals. That's the other
Do
thing.
they
that,
have real whales in that one? Like,
yes,
The production value's that high?
It's really terrific, and he's sort of curmudgeon-y at first, but then
Oh, it
warms
has to
up.
be, right?
Right. Yeah.
So we've
there
gone
you go.
over this. You've aced the test. Can you tell us what the best Hallmark movie is, in your opinion? Like the quintessential, everyone's got to see it.
Oh my gosh.
Or are they all the same? So that's a kind of dumb question.
I really don't have a top of the line favorite. They're all really good. I'm just trying to think of one that was particularly
Do you like the holiday ones or the these kind where they're kind of just general romance ones?
both. I get totally consumed during the holidays.
I was going to
with
ask,
the holiday
how did
ones.
you find time to shop or anything? Because there's like a
like-
gazillion of
yeah,
them.
They are on. You can watch the 10 to midnight ones. So they are on every 2 hours on Hallmark Channel, and even a couple of the other Hallmark channels. So enough of that. People
like
will
we've
think
learned a lot
I'm
today.
totally superficial, which
No,
is
you're totally
everybody's got a
genius.
little superficial in them.
So, well, you have been so real in everything you've done that it gives you the ability to be superficial. So,
Thank you.
Early career was Celeste. And remind me what you did in that role.
I was the deputy director at the Department of Development,
Okay.
of Marketing and Development, and then I was I was also on his staff as his director of communications, so coordinating all of the communications with all the 26 state agencies. So I did the Ohio, the heart of it all when I was at the Department of Development. Yes.
Oh, man, I know that. That's big time.
Was,
Those
yeah.
are big roles, by the way. I used to work in state government.
Okay.
Like, legit.
So the heart of it all even lasted beyond Celeste's administration of 8 years to 8 years of Voinovich's administration as governor, because it was so impactful and it had so much brand awareness that it was smart to keep it.
So how did you, I mean, that's like one of the things I always remember growing up is the heart of it all. How did you come up with that? I mean, that's like almost perfect, but how, did you just like sit there and think about it, or do you use consultants? Or?
I used consultants. David Millenthal, at that time it was Hammeroff Millenthal, and you work through a process and a methodology. There is a process to it, and just thinking about words that describe Ohio, thinking about unique aspects of the state, and then going through a process, a methodology of brainstorming. And when you think of Ohio, the heart of it all, it's in the center of the country. It has so much diversity, really. It's got eight major metropolitan areas, and then it's got all these rural areas. It's a very eclectic state, and it's got, because of that, it has a lot of things to see as a tourist. All the state parks, just the state parks, and what's happening in Cleveland and Columbus and Cincinnati from an artistic and sports. It's of it all. That's why we came up with.
Ohio kind of looks like a heart almost.
Yeah.
It has so many layers to it. I put way too much thought into that slogan when I was in school.
That's interesting. So that was how we came up with it. And then we came up with that 1-800-Buckeye, which had the largest number of responses of any state tourism program in the country, including New York. I love New York, and California.
Really?
It just resonated with people, and it was memorable. We received so many calls on that 1-800-Buckeye line. So anyway,
it's a lot harder than you think, because I know this region in particular, and I could be wrong here, but it struggles to like come up with a tagline or a phrase. I mean, the heart of it all like really landed, but a lot of places can't do that. It's not as easy as it seems.
And we targeted, because we're not New York or Chicago or LA or Florida, we targeted the short vacation, not the 2-week vacation or the 1 week. But if you want to do an extended 4 or 5 day vacation, we put together packages actually where you could do that and you didn't have to travel far. So we really found a niche in the travel and tourism market, and that's what served us well too.
So the other thing that you worked on that people in the Columbus area who are my age or older will remember is you worked on all the celebrations around the the Quincentennial Jubilee, 500th anniversary of Columbus's voyages to the Americas. We're the largest city in the world with the name Columbus. There's lots of countries. It was a little bit controversial because of the whole Native American connection. I was going to ask whether that was really a thing. Gosh, what was it? 30 years ago now?
Thank you for reminding me.
No, trust me.
It was 92.
Yeah, holy smokes. Makes me feel old too. Because I remember, I was actually an intern in state government during that time. It was between my junior and senior year in college, and actually I remember the first time my wife met my parents. We went to Ameriflora.
Oh, there you go.
So that's why it all comes back in terms of vivid color, in terms of exactly kind of when that was. But anyway, how big of a thing was that? I mean, when you compare that to, what was it, last year before last, when they took the Christopher Columbus statue down in front of City Hall.
Right. You know, at that point in time, it was not, it was an issue, but it wasn't really front and center. And we organized the commission around 4 legacy goals, which were neighborhood and community, arts, education, and leaving legacy projects. And so we really worked very diligently on advancing those initiatives, like Ameriflora, quite frankly, which is an incredible legacy at Franklin Park, right? And other education projects that you would recognize today that were like right from the start, preschool education. We had a whole initiative around that. And we invested, we created a grants program through the Columbus Foundation to give neighborhoods grants so that they could invest in their neighborhood and be a part, many beautification grants in a part of the celebration. So it was certainly a piece of it, and that's okay.
Yeah.
Because it really reflected the challenges and the conflict around Indigenous people. So we really tried to not ignore that, but really focus on things that would leave a lasting legacy for the community.
That's
Was
great.
it always kind of on the schedule that you were going to commemorate this, or did the idea come up, hey, this is coming up, maybe we should do something?
No, that's a great question. It was definitely something that was planned. In fact, I went with a delegation of city and county leaders to Scotland the 2 years before, where they had their version of Ameriflora. It's an internationally recognized floral event.
Oh, cool.
And so we went there to really see how they did it and to learn from them. And so it had been in the planning for 3-4 years.
Cool.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
No, that's it. On that subject.
On that.
I'm sure there's more.
So what? Your whole career has been about public service. Where did that kind of love of public service come from?
That is a really crucial question and an important one. It gets to the core of who I am, and that was Dick Celeste. He said, we can do together all those things we can't do alone. And he inspired me by his passion for public service. Started as a state rep, as you may know, in Cleveland, then went on to be lieutenant governor when they weren't running in tandem. Believe it or not, yeah, but this was 1972 maybe. He ran for lieutenant governor. I worked with him on that campaign. Then when he ran for governor in 78, and he lost the first time. But all throughout that time, he really gave me this passion for giving back and paying forward. And that stayed with me. That really framed, to your point, my career. Because I spent 20 years in economic development and tourism marketing with Chamber of Commerce, and then Columbus 92, and then the state with tourism. And then I went on to work at Children's. I was the senior VP for strategic marketing and community development. Yeah, and then at Goodwill. And so it really was my true north, if you will. It was what grounded me from a career perspective and my involvement in the community as a volunteer.
So you, in this community, although I was going to say your longest period of involvement was with the school board. You said 12 years. It feels like we're approaching that with the work that you've been doing on the community center between the
In dog years, you're at 12
between,
years.
Right.
Yeah.
between the two.
Right, because I tell people I was really on school board for 84 years.
Yeah.
For every year you're on school board, it's like dog years.
Yeah.
You're on 7 years, so go ahead on the
So,
community center.
But it feels like we're approaching. It feels like we're approaching 12 years. But then again, as you said, school board years really, truly, I think, are kind of it goes in dog years.
Although I will say I loved it. I had passion around it because
So
I don't want to demean it.
What was the thing that you found most rewarding about that service?
About
School board.
children are our most precious resource. I don't mean to sound corny, but they are. And making an investment in our children and their future through education in a community that already has an exceptional school district. However, it's always about continuous improvement. You can't become a legend in your own mind.
Yeah.
And so I thought I could bring a perspective as a nonprofit leader. I mean, at the time I was at Children's and then at Goodwill. And I just thought that it would be a place where I could provide my perspective as a non-educator also, because several of the individuals had education background, which is terrific. Yeah. But I thought I could bring another perspective, and that was what inspired me to run. And I ran. Again, there were 6 people that ran for 2 open seats that year.
Oh, wow.
Yes, and so it really was quite a campaign. Back then, I raised $11,000 for this campaign, which is now
sounds like a lot, though.
Yeah, for back then.
It was back then, but it's,
and
now it's not.
Because I really told my story about why I wanted to run, and people were supportive, and so it was truly grassroots, though, door to door. And
how was it
yard
making
signs.
that pivot? Because I've been in public service most of my career, but I can't even fathom like running for something. And you were always working, for elected officials. So how is that moving to now I'm the candidate?
Yeah, that's another really good question, because
I'm on 3 for 3 today, Steve.
I'm
I don't
telling
usually
you,
ask good questions, Margie.
you're
so
on
I
a
appreciate
roll.
this.
So I'm glad
so at some point he's going to ask you what your favorite Marvel character is.
Yeah, it'll crash and burn at some point. I'm
Yeah,
chalking
that's
up the
going to
good
crash
wins.
and burn, because I'm not a Marvel fan. Not that I'm not. I don't
Okay,
like
just-
them.
we don't want to end this interview early. Just kidding.
No, that's right. Got to go.
Darren storms
Bye bye. And so now I don't remember the question.
About pivoting to running.
Yes,
as opposed
and
to
so I had run folks campaign, and I had been involved with individuals who were with public service, but it's scary to then become that elected official, because you have a fiduciary responsibility now and a whole different set of rules and laws that you have to abide by. And so it was daunting, actually, to make that transition. I just spent my first year, fortunately I had 12, really listening and learning about what it is like to be a school board member, what are the key issues, and that served me well. But it was an interesting transition, because it's very serious when you're. Unfortunately, there are not enough people that take elected office seriously.
Right.
But this was something that was really important, and so I spent the time to understand what it's like.
Well, and I do want to say thank you for one of the things that you do that doesn't show up on that very, very long resume of yours, which is I know how much time you spend whenever somebody is expressing an interest in running for office, that you take the time and sit down with them, because we're heading in, this 2023 is an election year for both the school board and for city council, and for us to be able to do our jobs, and for our partners and colleagues at the school board to be able to do their job, you have to have people who understand what the job of being on that board is, and that you're not on a corporate board and you're not on the PTO.
Right.
And finding that place where
That sweet spot.
Yeah.
That is, and I'm glad you mentioned that, because I do spend time, because of all of that, mentoring individuals, not only to go into public service in general or nonprofit, the nonprofit sector, but specifically in this case, I want to give them a real understanding of what is involved. Someone I talked to years back, who I said, you got to run a campaign. They said, I have to run a campaign? I have to raise some money, and I have to have a platform? And I'm like, yeah, you just don't put your name on a list and get to be an elected official. So I've mentored and had conversations with individuals because I want to make sure that, to your point, Steve, that our city council members and our school board members really have an appreciation and understanding of what it's like to be in those positions.
Well, and I think the work that you've done and basically every other former council member that I know spends the time to do that. I think that's part of why we have, when I look at how our civic conversation functions and I compare it to other places around Central Ohio, I think we have, I'll say it, I think we have the best civic culture when it comes to how we treat each other in our meetings, how our board members relate to each other. They can disagree but aren't disagreeable. We don't have people who are just looking to throw bombs and score points, and it's because of this is a thank you to you and all of the other prior elected officials that I know who are really dedicated to making sure that continues.
Right, and I appreciate that, and know that we all know that there were times when we've had, that's okay, when we've had some disagreements, and maybe it wasn't perfectly agreeable to disagree. However, it's about continuity, to your point, and it is about, if you want to be a stable community and you want to be a community that really responds to the needs of your citizens, you're going to want that level of continuity. So
there are two questions we ask every guest, and you sent these in, and I literally on purpose did not read them.
Okay.
Because we want to have the magic of first time hearing.
We want the magic of first time hearing.
Honest reactions.
So, and this is the one thing we allowed you to prepare for, and I'm glad that you prepared for it.
I didn't bring my notes on that one, but that's okay. So
now
I'm going to be.
So hold on, before we get there, what did you take? What did you take before? So Margie, I've worked a lot with Margie over the last 3 years, and she's always prepared. And she came in. She thought we were going to ask her about sports, so she's got a terrible towel. She's got an OSU towel. She's got all kinds of. What did you bring notes on? I have to know the answer.
Okay,
to this
so I was going to focus on, because everybody bleeds scarlet and gray around here, the OSU thing, and I didn't go to Ohio State University. I went to Kent State, but to rah-rah for the Golden Flashes, I loved my time at Kent State, but it's not the same, and I've been here for a long time. But the Steelers,
that's your team?
That's my team. And I know I'm not going to make many friends who are listening to this who are Browns or Bengals fans, but I don't care.
Just so long as it's not the Browns, I don't care. Steelers, I'm okay with Steelers, which makes me unusual as a Bengals fan.
But well, it's kind of weird, Steve, but
it is.
And I am a rabid Steelers fan by marriage. Oh. I'm from New York. Didn't have a love for sports when I was growing up, came to Ohio, and still didn't, have a connection. And then I married somebody who bleeds black and gold, and not Upper Arlington black and gold, the other black and gold. And it was in the 70s. And
that's
the Steelers, yes, okay, I know, they've got a different dynamic now, particularly with Roethlisberger retiring and trying to find their rhythm with a new quarterback. But that steel curtain, I mean, when you think of, Mean Joe Green and Ernie Holmes, they were the defensive tackles, and then you have L.C. Greenwood, remember, and Dwight White, who were the defensive ends. And just the way the steel curtain, in sports, you've got these nicknames, as you know. Yeah. For everything and everybody.
If you're awesome, you do. Yeah.
If you're awesome, you do.
If you stink, you don't usually get a nickname.
Right.
The Browns don't have too many good nicknames.
No comment. But the
I think the Browns says it all. Yeah.
The history of that is incredible. Of how the steel curtain got its name. Just in a minute, because I know I'm going to want to talk most importantly about the last two questions. But it actually was taken from the Iron Curtain, which was Winston Churchill's comment, and this was back in 1971. A local radio station did a contest to name this. This is how iconic, right? To name the defensive line. Yeah. And they had a lot of entries, and obviously the notion of steel production, right, was something that resonated. 17 individuals actually submitted steel curtain as one of them. So then they had to do a runoff, okay? And a ninth grader from a suburban school district won because he was one of the 17 that submitted steel curtain. And that's how it became the steel curtain. And if any of you remember Myron Cope, he was the announcer. Anybody listening who's from Pittsburgh, Myron Cope. He's the one who created this towel.
The terrible towel?
He's the one who came up with the terrible towel, and it really became iconic, obviously. But that's what happened. And I just thought you might like to know that.
I do, and I realized a couple things during this interview. You are an expert at branding. You know about the steel curtain, the terrible towel, the celestial, the heart of it all. Can you put your thinking cap on after the show? I don't want to put you on the spot. We need some branding for the fans of the Won't You Be Our Neighbor.
Oh, that's a great
We need some
idea.
tag. We need something like brand and really
brought
resonate.
you brought it to the table today. I appreciate that.
Yeah.
And I am more than happy to oblige
We'll
by.
give you credit if you can come up with something, and we'll talk about it
we,
every
we,
show.
we need something to some way other than just saying Holly and
And my dad.
and your dad for our
That's a start.
for our core fans because and Vicky and Pastor Vicky. So
Pastor Vicky, I love her.
So yeah, it's. I mean, we need
It's a
some.
branding opportunity.
I got some ideas. We'll talk.
Okay. we
Afterwards.
will pay the same thing we paid for our. We do the same deal for our theme song.
As we did for our license. We'd have to come up with something else because we did promise all of our advertising revenue to Colin.
That's true.
So
We'll come up with other
for the
equally
theme song.
I will
meaningless-
do this pro bono and happily.
True public servant.
That's
That is her commitment to public service.
That's right.
All right. So our last two questions are always, what do you love about UA and what would you change?
So, obviously, I've given a lot of thought to this, and it's embedded in my persona in many ways because I'm a first generation UA resident. I wasn't born here, but I've lived here for 45 years, and you've heard of the things I've done. And many of the things I'm going to say are obvious. However, they resonate, and one is this sense of deep pride and passion that people that live in UA have for this community. Part of it's generational. I mean, part of it gets to the third, fourth generation of families that are here. I remember when I was giving out degrees, high school diplomas, and I was a school board member, and Kip Greenhill, who would weep at every one of these, would say, first generation, stand up. Second generation, third, fourth generation. It was palpable, the deep history and the roots that we have in this community. And the love and passion for education and lifelong learning, I think, is really important. And just a sense of recognizing that we really do have many of the ingredients that sustain us as a community, along with the level of civility that we have in this community. And I think the connection to Ohio State, because of proximity, I think really does make a difference. So that's why I've lived here for 45 years.
Yeah. Good. What would you change?
Okay, so I think what I just shared with you is both a blessing and a curse, and not a curse in the deepest way. But I think it is the deep history and the generational legacy that's here, I think has created, not a surprise, a bit of a bubble. Mm-hmm. And I appreciated the survey that you did and how much you're communicating the results of those surveys, the survey that you did from the residents. And I think that this kind of generational depth and grounding can cause us to not be as open
Yeah.
and as welcoming to others. And I am really excited about the work that you're doing with the Community Relations Committee and with just making it top of mind, along with, I think, the natural evolution of the demographics of Upper Arlington. This is a great place to live. It's near, it's an inner circle suburban community close to downtown. We've got so much to offer. We're not perfect, but we've got a lot that we can offer. And I think it's a great opportunity to really assure that we're a diverse and welcoming and inclusive community going forward. And I think that was reflected in some of the results that you saw. So that's where I'd like to see the change. And I'm optimistic that it'll happen.
Yeah. Cool. We've talked about this stuff a lot, you and I, and you've really kind of informed me in terms of how to think about those things, and that really it is, the power of pride, but making sure that pride doesn't lead to being insular.
That's exactly right. And to that point, if we're going to do that, we need to be intentional.
Yes.
There needs to be some intentionality and some recognition that it is a process, and we need to address it in that way. With being authentic, we need to be authentic. We need to be disciplined. We need to be intentional. And I believe that we'll do that in a way that will make it happen, and happen in the way that it should happen.
Yeah. Well, I don't know that Darren and I will ever be very disciplined about stuff, but we've got people on our team who will. And
We'll be intentional.
We'll be intentional. But thank you so much for coming on and doing this with us today. Thank you so much for everything you do in the community today and everything you've done in the past. And this was a lot of fun.
Good. It's my pleasure.
Thanks for bearing with our questions. I've learned a lot.
That's
And
okay.
I'm stunned at how good you were with the Hallmark or not Hallmark. We're going to have to figure out a way to repeat that. I actually like the way that went. We're going to have to figure out.
I just love how she didn't prepare at all for that.
No.
Bam!
And she crushed it.
She did.
Because I was authentic in my passion
Definitely intentional in your answer.
for rom-coms. So.
All right. Thanks, Margie.
You're welcome.
All right.